The master needs it. What a strange sentence coming from the one who needs nothing. A small and significant donkey that was demanded to fulfill the prophecy and bring Jesus into Jerusalem. We are talking about the creator of the universe, the one who holds everything in his hands, yet he makes this request. The subject seems to be a little contradictory. The Lord, who is God, needs something as small and humble as a donkey. This seemingly insignificant creature that had never been ridden becomes the instrument of one of the grandest events in history, Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem, leading to the ultimate act of salvation. This donkey is part of God's perfect plan, and it is not for the sake of Jesus himself that is needed, but for the fulfillment of God's will in the world. In other words, the master needs to let you know that you need him. God often chooses to work through the insignificant, the humble, and the lowly. It is not because he requires these things, but because they reveal his power and grace in ways that speak to our hearts. He could have entered Jerusalem in any manner, even without the donkey, but he did it to bring significance to something the world might consider trivial or unimportant. How often do we, like the donkey, feel insignificant? How often do we think that what we do or have to offer is too small to matter in the grand scheme of things? In God's economy, nothing is too small. God can take our small offerings and when placed in his hands, he can transform them into something beautiful and powerful. The donkey represents not only Jesus' humility, but also God's willingness to be present in every part of our life. When we offer ourselves, even in our most humble states, we are invited to be part of God's grand plan. We know from the scriptures that God is self-sufficient. He is perfect, lacking nothing. But Jesus, in his incarnation, chooses to make himself dependent on others. What could have happened if Mary has not accepted being the mother of Jesus? What could have happened if Joseph had not taken care of his family? Now, what are your insignificant tasks or decisions that could be taken by God by the fulfillment of his plan in your life? The master needs it. It's a beautiful and powerful phrase that reveals God's desire to work through us. Again, he calls us not because he needs us in a way that we often understand need, but because he wants to include us in his mission. This is not a God who is distant and uninterested in our lives. It is a God who, through all-powerful, chooses to engage with even the smallest and most humble aspect of creation. God can use us, no matter how insignificant we may feel. He can take our humble offerings, whether they be our time, talents, or simple acts of kindness, and he can use them for his glory. When we offer ourselves to God, we become part of his work in the world, just as the donkey became part of the greatest act of love the world has ever known. God doesn't need our greatness or perfection. He desires our willingness to be part of his plan and to offer ourselves to him just as the donkey did. The master needs it. He will send it back here shortly. In other words, don't worry, he will get it back to you as soon as possible. Observe the subtle signal of quick reciprocity from Jesus, especially when we offer something to Him without expecting anything in exchange. When you offer to God, even your miseries, as the widow's offering, emphasize the importance of giving with a sincere heart, regardless of the amount. God sees the sacrifice behind the offering, if there any sacrifice. For sure, He gets you back as soon as possible. If you want to offer something to God, don't do it because you know about the quick reciprocity from God, but because you know we are useless without the presence of God in our heart, souls, and lives. In my town, there was a man who was so poor that the only one thing he had was money. So the essence of our daily offering to God is not about your material possessions, but your sincerity of heart. Let us continue offering to God everything we have. If the donkey that carried Jesus were the same as the one Balaam owned, it could have cried out with the Hebrew children 2,000 years ago, and as we are doing today, Benedictus qui venit in nomine Domini. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Amen.